and they accepted to give us some data for this year. We don't know exactly which BS, what is the architecture, and blah, 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 blah. So it's a bit disappointing, if you want. And because we would need time series, we would need detailed data about different generation, different versions, different manufacturers, different BS architectures, number of antennas, and so on, to understand what is the impact of mobile networks. So the data is available, but is hidden by the manufacturers and the operators. So how to deal with this? How to maybe make a little bit pressure on them? We had a preliminary solution, preliminary answer. We tried to estimate the power based on a simplified model on open data that is available in France and on some reasonable assumptions. So this is what we have done in this work. So first we have based our work on the NFR data set. So this is a French agency for frequency management in France. And we have processed the data set. We have also shown the hierarchy of the data set. So because this data set is not well documented, so the code and the documentation we have written is available online on the GitHub. And we have this kind of information, like the support of the base stations, the antennas, the transceiver, the bands, and so on. There is some important information are missing, like the transmit power or the number of antenna elements in MIMO, for example. But we can deduce some things, and we can and there is already a lot of information. So we have processed this, and we have based our models on two kind of base station architecture, let's say old one and a new one. So in the old one, this is here on the top, you see that you have electricity supply elements, you have cooling, you have a baseband board, which is a card dedicating to signal processing, and you have the radio frequency part, the power amplifier, and you have the antennas with a cable, which is the feeder. And in a more more modern architecture, the power amplifier are deported in a radio head, in a remote radio head. And so generally that is connected with optical fiber to the base station. So there is no cooling. Cooling is done by the air. And there is no feeder loss because this is optical transmission. And then we have the output power for the antenna. We have used a widely, a bit old, but widely accepted model, which is the Earth model, that predict a little bit the power consumption of a base station as a function of the element we have seen. So you have the consumption, for example, of the power amplifier, you have the baseband board, and you have losses you see on the denominator related to the supply or to the feeder or the cooling. And the power amplifier is characterized by an efficiency parameter that is called eta here. So this is for the old base stations. For 5G, we know that 5G now is using massive MIMO, so it means that it requires antenna array units. And so we have based our calculation on another model, which looked better for us with respect to informal discussion we had with some operators. And we have made a dependence on load, but we are using an average load, so we just multiply the average load rho by the maximum transmit power. We have taken into account technology improvement, so over the years, the technology is improving, and so, for example, here, this is the case of the power amplifier efficiency. It is improving after N years, it is better. And we have an assumption on the average BS lifetime. So after some time, the BS is replaced with a new technology. So I don't have so much time, so I go directly to the results. So the numerical settings, so we have most of the values that are taken from these two references. We have our own assumption for the mapping between the BS type and the technology, because between the MIMO type, the technology, and the frequency band. So this is our own assumption. And we have obtained this kind of results where you see on the left the number of base stations in France, between 2015 and 2022. And the straight line is the introduction of 5G. So we have base stations that are multi-technology. So for example, take this curve, it's a 2G, 3G, 4G base stations. So they are increasing until 5G. And then they have been upgraded to 5G. So you have this curve. So these base stations are decreasing and the number of base stations with 5G is increasing. And here at the top, you have the total amount of base stations in France. So we see that the rate of increase is quite high, okay, maybe 7 or 8%. And if we go deeper, I mean, we look at the number of transceivers, the rate of increase is even higher, maybe 18%. And after the introduction of 5G, we don't have, the growth rate is not deviating too much because 5G is probably co-located with 4G most of the time, and also because some 2G and 3G components are decommissioned. So if I translate now, I plug my model, my power model on this database and on these numbers, we see a very big increase, in fact, of the total consumption power of the BS, maybe multiplied by 3 or 4 within 7 years. And the total consumption is here 350 megawatts, so it translates into 3 terawatt-hours per year, so approximately a bit less than 1% of the total electricity consumption in France in 2021. The growth rate has accelerated a little bit from 18 to 19% by the introduction of 5G. The reason also is the fact that the base stations are bigger and bigger. So here we show the average base station power as a function of the highest technology. So here on the right you have the 5G case, and on the left you have only 2G base stations. So the increase is quite important. We have compared to other sources, so 2 main sources from Lunden et al. And from document from the French regulator ARCEP. We are not so close, but we are in the same order of magnitude. It's difficult because it's not exactly the same scope, so we have to make some rough scaling. I can explain if you want afterwards. We have also sampled data taken from, for example, the operator Free in 2017, or from ITU and so on, about the consumption of 5G base station, and we are in the same order of magnitude. So at the conclusion, in our study, everything is available, is open, okay? So the NFR dataset, the power model, the source code, so suggestions are welcome. And it seems that we underestimate the power consumption with respect to existing study, but we are in the same order of magnitude. And we have impressive, maybe alarming figures between 2015 and 2022. So in terms of equipment count, but this is not from us, this is from the NFR dataset, and probably in terms of power consumption, and this is with our assumptions. So keep in mind that the mobile data traffic has increased by 37% between the 2 dates in the meantime. So we see also the increase of energy efficiency. 5G has not significantly modified the increase rate in terms of equipment count, as I explained before, and but maybe an acceleration of the growth rate of the total power consumption. Thank you for your attention.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marceau, and perfectly on time. So, do we have some questions? That was just an arm in the air. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Marceau, for the presentation. We know each other, but I have a question about slide 12, please, Marceau. About 12 or 13.
This one?
Yes, this one, yeah. Because, you know, there is this common knowledge that the more you advance in generation, the less you consume energy. And here is little opposite. when you go from 2G, 3G, 4G? Is it because you consider average powers, or
This is the
can you
average-
comment on this?
Because every BS is multi-technology. So most of the time, I mean, maybe 100% of the time, when you have 5G, you have all the other generations. So it's something that has been also noticed by a white paper by Huawei. So this is known. This is something that is known. It's not only from us, but we have our own figures, if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rosanna, did you have a question? No? Any other hands? Right, across the far side. And then Doug down.
Is it working? Yeah. So you were asking for it, but then I'd like to hear the answer about the rough scaling that you were doing to.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I have a backup slide I can show you. Yes, here. For example, with London, London is considering several operators over Europe. So we have scaled down in number of subscriptions to have the case of France, and using the ITU values. And then we have scaled down to the radio access network. But here it's a bit, it's a rough approximation, because we know from a document from Nokia that 80% of the electricity consumption in mobile networks is from the base stations. So we have applied this. And same for RCEP. We have 80% for the base station, and we have a 60% for the, because RCEP is publishing the whole network, fixed and mobile. So we apply 60%. So it's rough.
Great. Thank you. Doug.
Yes, thank you. Always interesting to see model-based calculations. Facts from reality, when we are now modernizing our network in Sweden, and now I speak as a telecom operator, Telia, we don't see that increase, and that is quite interesting. But I understand the challenge. So my comment here is just the one thing, and that is that there is a lack of transparency, and has been so within the industry, and that's a poor thing, and that's the reason for our mine and Jens Malmodin's paper that will be presented later on today. So really, this is one way to just address the question.
Thank you.
Right. And Jens?
I think our SEP have published now fixed and mobile split and for like from 2015 up to 21, maybe even at least. And I think all the operators have cooperated, so you have the real figures in there. But they are, what was it, 2.8 terawatt hours, the latest figure.
Yeah.
And Doug will present later. I think that puts France quite like the average European operator, quite close to. And I can comment also on the 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. I think it's better to separate them. And the new, I mean, if you take the biggest 5G radios now, so one cell is about 500 watts, so 1.5, but then that's the largest one. And then there are like half of that if you don't have.
Okay.
So it's very, I mean, it goes down
Okay, it's interesting.
quite a lot.
Yeah, okay. So
There was very, very high figures there, but it sounded like you had included 2G, 3G, 4G in the 5G figure. You had all the standards. Yeah.
Okay.
And 2G, when it was released, it consumed like 2-3 kilowatts for just one band, allowing only like 23 phone calls at the same time, and that was it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And now I need both of the roving microphones down the front, please, because we're going to try something different. We've got a team presentation. This is a fascinating paper. I mean, thinking about the sustainability of local communities. Part of what is important is keeping the shops open, maybe the bank open. And This team have been looking at ICT mechanisms that may enable that to happen. So in terms of life cycling and enabling impacts, there's quite a story to tell here.
Thanks.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Please do go ahead.
We need a mic. Oh, we need one mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here for our presentation. We have the placards just to stick to the time. We are the Sustainability Management Master Students from the Southeastern University of Norway. The paper is co-authored by 3 of us with our professor, Ann. I am Noor. With me is Karine and Marie. Yeah. We thank our professor for motivating us to pursue this case study.
So this paper started as an assignment in one of our courses, where our professor, Ann, our co-writer, took an interest in the topic and encourages us to write an article about it. So we just want to thank also the cooperation with Mat-Norge, the company that we're writing our case study is about. So,
yeah. As for the case, we have looked at mostly rural Norway. Norway is a long and thin country with a lot of mountains and fjords. And there's long distances and poor public transport, which makes accessibility and connectivity a big challenge. Norway in general has a low growth when it comes to population, but especially in rural areas. This also comes from a big amount of domestic outmigration. Rural Norway is in need of innovation locally to withstand the challenges faced to maintain all the local communities.
Yeah, as an important aspect, I just want to highlight that this is a digital transformation case study, and we will be focusing only on the management side of it without going into technicalities, basically the technology. What we expect from you all is that we want you all to openly discuss and tell us or maybe share insights on how we can help Mat-Norge become technically sustainable.
Oh, no. Great.
So when we talk about triple bottom approach that takes care of profits, people, and the planet, we noticed a research gap as lack of examples on how sustainable digital transformation can be scaled in a rural business context. This is the motivation that we have worked on and presented. Yeah.
some of the highlights, the first point highlights the increasing recognition of digital transformation as a powerful tool to promote sustainable business practices. The paper provides, or our paper provides an overview of the case Mat-Norge, which provides retail multi-automation to its customers. The paper explains how the I-STAR framework used in the case helps understanding the environmental, social, and economic incentives during the digital transformation process in rural businesses, but we'll come back to that later. Mat-Norge cooperates with a governmental organization called Merkur that is providing fundings to the small businesses to keep them alive in the rural areas all around Norway, which in this case also emphasizes the importance of fostering partnerships between technology owners, business owners, and other stakeholders to facilitate the implementation of customized digital solutions. Sorry.
Yeah. As a qualitative research, this study is an exploratory research. We have used both deductive and inductive approaches to both utilize predetermined conceptual frameworks and also to extract new conceptual factors from the interviews and observations. The narrative analysis is employed to analyze the stories or the narratives to gain insights into how individuals construct meaning and interpret their experiences. The data was collected through interviews, observations, and company project documents. These were transcribed, analyzed to identify themes and patterns within the narrative.
So MatNorge is a B2B-based IoT startup in Norway. They work towards grocery chains, and they use a self-developed technology that they call RMA, or Retail Multi-Automation. This allows for the automation of the stores. So RMA is an IoT-based or Internet of Things-based technology, making it able to both locally and remotely control the store. It also allows for the store to be operating and running on its own. During our process with the article, we have gained insights into the following topics: digital transformation dimensions of the case, sustainability impact of digital transformation, and the challenges throughout the process.
So starting with the 4 dimensions of digital transformation, we start with the use of technology. MatNorge utilizes a comprehensive technology setup for store operations that involves camera surveillance, card-based identification at the entrance, fingerprint scanners at the lockers that contains age-limited products like alcohol or tobacco. Also, the fingerprints you have to scan in the register if you buy one of those items as well. They have fresh produce covers, automatic lights, the heating they can adjust from outside the store, and also customer service through speakers and video if needed. Next one, yeah, the change of value creation. They are self-service stores, not all of the stores, because MatNorge now has 60 stores around Norway. But the pilot store that we are focusing our paper on is located in the town where we go to university. They are self-served stores, unique advantages over regular stores, providing increased customer values like enchanted accessibility, flexible opening hours, user-friendly technology, and the technology ensures positive experiences across different group ages. This is a kind of local celebrity, Hilmar. He's 90 years old, and he has done all of his grocery shopping all by himself. And also another value creation is that the employees can focus more on creating social gatherings for the local communities. Change in organizational structure. It allows the employees to work shorter shifts. They can work flexible working hours. They can choose whenever they want to work throughout the day. Each store decides when their staffed opening hours is. That is allowing for adjustments when needed, so they prevent sick leaves, longer sick leaves, and the integrated technology into existing stores' ecosystems. They don't change it, so they don't have to shift because this might seem a bit similar to the Amazon store. But the thing in this store or this technology is that they don't have to change anything in the store, so the barcodes or nothing, it's all the same. So yeah. Shortly on the financial aspects, the installation costs, monthly retained free. But the upside of the financial aspect of this is that it has a growing potential and increased in daily transitions. So the turnover is growing without any changes.
Okay, so yeah, we are going to skip one. You can read that from the paper. So the challenges here are quite simple, but very complicated to solve. So as a service provider, according to the founder CEO of MatNorge, it was quite hard to explain to his customers how unique and versatile this techno solution is. Secondly, also, like already has been highlighted, in the other sessions during this conference is how to responsibly take initiatives to assess the indirect impact. So that is, these are the two challenges we have. Okay, quickly going through the I-STAR model, this is how we represent the relationship between Mat Norge and its customer, that is the store owner. So the technology is sold to a store owner. So here we can see the link between these two is through resources and the scalability aspect. So in a way, they help the store with the technology and reduce costs, and there are many benefits that we can consider. Yeah.
So for the small stores, this technology makes operating a store a viable business. It also lessens the need for government funding via Merkur. The customization process enables owners and employees to promote sustainability through green and/or eco feedback. It has optimized operations using RMA, IoT, and data analytics. The digital transformation is scalable and is poised for growth. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are going to focus on learnings individually, how it helped us. So in my case, as a disruptive innovation, coming from a rural region was quite fascinating. In a way, a simple solution to a simple problem, maybe a social innovation.
Just wrap it up.
Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. A fascinating application, and very good to see it work through in I-STAR as well. So, who has a question? Wonderful.
Oh, sorry. It's Aista from La Rochelle University. Maybe I misheard, maybe I didn't really understand when you were presenting the use of technology. Did you say that they were using fingerprints?
Yeah.
So I'm very surprised. I'm very curious about that because it's using fingerprints to enter the shop?
No, to enter the shop, you need to use your credit card. Just for security reasons, so that they know that somebody is in the store.
And fingerprints?
Fingerprints. In Norway, we have a lot of groceries, or we have a lot of products that are age limited. So to be able to buy smokes or alcohol, you need to be over 18.
And they have a. I'm very curious about that because I'm trying to imagine that case in France.
Yeah.
And I think with all the surveillance, that would be like massive not acceptance by the social side. So
yeah.
I'm just very naturally curious how the rate of acceptance within the Norwegian community for businesses like that to gather fingerprints, and what are the protections behind that, and how customers are they absolutely happy to give their fingerprints to businesses, and is there it taps into the database of national? I guess?
No,
Great
no,
question.
it doesn't. It's a good question. Yeah, you want to answer?
So most people enter their fingerprints. I have not heard of anyone that has had any issues with it. And if you don't want to enter your fingerprint, you can also show ID to the remotely staffed customer service agents.
But if you use the fingerprint, and you said if it's used to decide your age, then it does tap to some kind of database.
Yeah, they have their own database locally based in the store,
which is tapped to all the citizens of Norway.
That one store.
Only, So in Norway, we have a lot of the grocery stores in Norway have self-registers, and we also, because of the age-limited products, we need to have some sort of identification for knowing that you are allowed to buy the alcohol or the tobacco stuff. So each store you have to scan you have to register your print in each store. It doesn't. go into any other database. It only works at the one store that you're in. So when you first time shopper, when I first went to the store here in Bø, where I live, I had to contact the customer service very easily through the register, and they checked my ID, and then they okayed like my fingerprint. So now I can go do my grocery shopping in the middle of the night and also buy age-limited products.
Well, thanks for the answer. I find this fascinating. I think I'll be looking into that on the side, but thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're probably out of time. Thank you for a fascinating presentation. Well done. And now Larry's going to set up. So what is the net zero target date for your country? In the UK, it's 2050. Finland is 2035. That puts a lot of pressure on businesses and institutions to change. One might say that it gives them a competitive advantage if they can reach there ahead of the rest of us, get services ready, and develop green IT ecosystems. So I'm looking forward to hearing it. While he's making that work, do any of you live in a country or a city that has an earlier net zero target date than 2050? 1, 2, 3, very few. We're mostly working for 2050, but come and visit Bristol, where we're going for 2030. Big task. Just don't ask us how big the net is going to be in net zero.
All right.
So can the tech team help us out here? We're seeing the image on the computer, but not on the screen.
No, it's not. It's HP. And I tested it earlier on, but...
Yes, I can confirm I did see the first slide earlier on the screen. So what's happened? What's changed? Now enjoy the sight of live debugging.
Surprisingly, I tested earlier, but yes.
Yes. Wonderful. Don't you love intermittent problems?
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
We should change.
Something?
Yeah, we will change the computer.
Change the computer.
Yeah, I think it's a computer.
Okay.
Okay.
Doug, do you want to try? You can change order. Come on.
Yes, yes.
Hopefully mine works. Hopefully. I can't promise. Now let's see, where's the cable here? Okay. Is it a MacBook?
So a quick change of running order.
Yeah.
And earlier we looked at French base stations and networks, and now we're going large. The whole of Europe.
Wow. It seems to work, I think.
Nice picture.
Yeah, I know. Now let's see. Sorry for bragging. There you go. Now let's see. Yeah, exactly. Great. But, yeah. This was, in fact, my first page introduction, but after the wonderful presentation by the keynote this morning, I changed to this one. This is just to chill you down a little bit in the audience, because this is from 2 months ago in the north part of Sweden, and we had down to minus 15 degrees during the night. We're now tenting in our ski trip. Just to compare that with the keynote, who has been living and working at Vostok. I don't know whether you know that place, but they are really the coldest place on Earth. We're talking about minus 72 degrees. When it's summer in Antarctica, in Vostok, we're talking about minus 35 or something. So minus 15 is like, yes, Hawaii. Yes, okay. My name is Dag Lundén. I work as environmental manager within Telia. Telia is a quite large telecom operator in the Scandinavian region, Nordic Baltics. And as a part of my work as environmental manager, I have had the privilege to work also part-time as a researcher. And I've published quite a number of papers regarding ICT footprint and life cycle assessment, often in collaboration with my dear colleague Jens Malmodin, as you have already met, and Pernilla Bergmark and Nina Löfvehagen, among others. And we have a defined connection also to the Royal Institute of Technology. We are in the same city. So. Okay, the task here of the presentation more or less focus on 3 things that we have been. This is this article that we have published. Sorry, I need to change the glasses. Yes, we have been able, and our first, Morris presented a first study from, and also referred to us, that was very, very nice, thank you. There have been a challenge within the industry to collect and publish data that is really of essence for your future research in the academia, to see the actual footprint. And by that, you have been forced to try to model the actual consumption, the actual carbon footprint. And we have seen in the industry that these figures have been a little bit overestimated, to put it lightly. So here we have tried to collect data. This is a continuing work that we've been doing since 1996 forward, based on life cycle assessment. And what we have found during the last studies, and this was also partly presented at the Toronto ICT Forense conference in Toronto for the period 2010 to 2015, were that, yes, we had a slight increase CO2 footprint, the increase in electricity consumption, and the CO2 footprint was more or less flat. But what we see now among the operators, that these operators more or less, or everybody is a member of the European Telecommunicator Association. That is a joint association to keep all operators collaborate as a how to say it, just to have a common view and discussions towards, for instance, the EU Commission. We have through them been able to collect quite much of detailed data that we have been allowed to aggregate and share with you. And now in this study, we are also able to name them. So you know which operators that has been collected, where data comes from. However, it's aggregated, so we are not allowed to reveal individual figures, but there are some individual figures as well picked up from the annual reports as well. So there are some, I will come to that further on. That said, electricity consumption is flat, has been flat. CO2 emissions are going down among the operators. And third, but not least, data continues to increase. And here's slightly background. As I said, we have really looked into these areas and tried also to use our networks and to collect the data, and also our background within the industry. You can question whether we are compromised or not. Me and Jens, we have tried to be quite transparent in what we are doing, as well as try to be quite open. But of course, we are financed by the industry. So yes, I have my salary from Telia and Jens from Ericsson, as well as Nina and Pernilla. But whether that makes us less credible than other stakeholders, I can't tell. That's up to you to decide. I strongly recommend you not only to read the article, but also download the supplement, because there is a supplement to this article that it contains quite much of very detailed data. So if you want to dig in further, as the nerds that I assume that you all are in the numbers, please do download. And if you find something that seems intriguing or to be questioned, or if you just want to criticize us, please reach out, because we are really open for that kind of discussions. Okay, and here is a favorite quote from my side, and that is taken from Lord Kelvin. If you measure things that you know something, you can model and try to assume things, but then you might have a sense of understanding. But measurement, sorry to say, gives probably the best understanding and also a sound transparency. Percy Barnevik has said that what gets measured gets done, and I'm quite, I can say that I agree and follow totally. What we have included here is European operators. We're talking about 36% of all subscription within Europe. Then you can start think of how to define Europe. And that this study was performed during Brexit, so that we had another obstacle. But we have integrated them as well, so UK are there, as well as Norway, Switzerland, and other, I mean, really, so we have defined, we have a new that many of these operators has also overseas operation. South America, Asia, Telenor is big in Southeast Asia. Telefonica is extremely big in South America. Telecom Italia, they have a quite large enterprise in Brazil, for instance. So I mean, they're quite big impact. We have also included them in our study. We had tried to differentiate the figures in between Europe and overseas, so we find these figures in the report. Please read it. It's not part of this presentation, but we're talking about the infrastructure of every service that are provided on the European market, you say. And 36% we have been able to collect 36%. Sorry to say, this is back to Orange and other French operators, no material received from our French operators, and that is a pity. I would really have loved to have them with us here, because that would have increased the trustworthiness of this article. Sorry. Yes, I continue. Here you see the renewable electricity production. Looking at the actual then footprint, as you see, local-based CO2 emissions has been more or less flat. Market-based is going down due to the fact that this ICT sector is really the biggest single sector to invest in renewable electricity for far. Going into details here, you can see the trends for this period. Fixed PSTN, as well as fixed broadband connectivity via copper-based going down. Mobile sector, as you see, aggregated goes up. Our internal data center operations, quite flat. There are some other numbers here. Offices, there have been some internal efficiencies here as well that has really decreased the energy consumption on these sites. But this, I would say, is probably the best figure because here we have also aggregated the figures from 2010 until 2020 in comparison for the electricity consumption versus data, and we have aggregated for all these operators. And as you can see, electricity from an index perspective, we have really indexed all figures here just to anonymize, harmonize, to see that everybody is treated equally. We see that the electricity consumption has been more or less flat at the same time as the data just booming up in the sky. So, summary. If you should remember anything, yes, Vostok is a chilly place. But for the rest, I would say network side is not increasing their footprint, neither from electricity nor CO2 emissions. I would say it's the opposite, at least for European operators. For the full ICT sector, that is still a peer review paper that is in the peer review process. So there will be a 2015, 2030 paper for the full ICT sector that is to be published when the peer review process, but that's to come. And for the rest, I will say, yep, that was all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Doug. So who's first with a hand in the air? There must be questions for this. Right, up in the middle at the back.
By 2050, the neutrality?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Okay. Do you know if this trend of the carbon emission or the energy usage of the networks in EU are compatible with the strategy of the EU regarding that?
What I have heard of quite many European operators, and they are driving this is that many have signed up for the SBTi targets that are in line with the 2030 targets, as well as following the carbon law. So I would say the majority, but there are local anomalies. And of course, please also remember that ethno operators are probably best in class when it comes to performance in this area. So yes, this might be a little bit biased, but I would say the trend within the ICT sector, and especially the telcos, are quite positive. But there are much more to do.
Great, thank you. You can just pass the microphone to you all. Right.
Yes, thanks for your talk. François Tajani from University of Rennes. Could you comment on why do you think estimates of the carbon footprint and energy consumption had been vastly overestimated in previous studies, as you mentioned at the very end of your talk?
I would say there are two things. One is that the total lack of transparency within the ICT industry in the past. They have been very reluctant, to say the least, to reveal figures, as exactly what Maurice pointed earlier. The other thing is that when trying to model CO2 emission and energy based on exponential, more or less, data increase, and use that as a use that in your algorithm to calculate carbon footprint and energy consumption, you will always be wrong, because you will be wrong at an exponential rate, and that's really one of the main issues, I would say.
And last question, quick, from Ludmilla.
Can't hear you. Sorry.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for the talk. Does this study include IoT? And if not, what do you think IoT will change in the future and today?
This is the total footprint of the connectivity on the network side. I mean, we're talking about the backbone of the ICT network in Europe. ICT devices are not included here. So with end-user devices, connections and so forth are not included. However, the IoT traffic is included in the consumption. To be frank, the data volume transported from IoT devices is normally quite small, so I doubt that they will have that much of an impact. We have tried to estimate that their actual impact, but it's fractions, even though that the connection points will be quite many, but from a data transport perspective, it's really very small figures. So, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right, let's see if we can get Larry's presentation working again. Yes.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the land of curious people, all of us here. And sometimes if you are too much curiosity may, make your laptop die. So, well, my name is Larry, and I'm here to present our paper. It's about stakeholder engagement in how we can resolve sustainability issues. I mean, the pressing sustainability issues that confront us today is complex and interrelated, and it's no longer suffice for one company to resolve sustainability issues. Companies and products are interrelated to provide us a value proposition. Have you wondered at this moment how many applications you have on your phone? Who knows offhand, anyway? Yes, I mean, we have a lot. This morning I tried to check my phone, because of this presentation, and I was surprised to know that I have about 130 applications on my phone. We could do a quick check. For those of you using iPhones, maybe you go to settings. There's a quick one. You go to settings, you tap on general, and then you tap on about, and then find applications. You would see a lot of applications, and these does not include the default applications provided by iPhone, but it's third-party applications. And for some of us who are using Android, you go to Play Store, tap on your account, and then tap on Manage Apps and Devices. You tap on Manage. You'll find loads of applications on your phone. The point I'm trying to drive here is that we have phone. We think we have one smartphone, but there are so many applications that have been working together to provide us the value that we need. At the same time, or in the same way, companies are in a close relationship to provide us with services that we need. And so, as companies and countries and nations race towards setting ambitious climate change targets, we can see, it ranges from 2025. For some countries, they have already achieved, 2 countries to be specific, and it goes all the way to 2100. Who knows if we live to witness this period. But for Finland specifically, Finland set an ambitious target to reach carbon neutral by 2035. This is a tall order and requires a lot of stakeholders to come together to see how they can help the country achieve this. And that gave birth to this project called Green ICT Ecosystem, we try to create an ecosystem where we bring parties together, stakeholders in the ICT ecosystem, device manufacturers, designers, network providers, researchers, policymakers, to see how together they can achieve sustainability issues. Sustainability is really complex and interrelated, as is being termed to be grand challenges. And one of the reasons, or some reasons why sustainability is really complex, is because of its complexity, the fact that it cannot be traced to one specific problem, the fact that it relates to multiple stakeholders, and also the fact that usually or oftentimes there is no right or wrong answer. And so you require stakeholders to come together to tackle sustainability issues. Conventional forms of tackling sustainability issues do not suffice any longer, because problems are not emanating from one particular person. Like I gave, or we found examples from our phones. Many applications and many companies are coming together to provide one service. And so if you are looking at it from one particular company, then you probably may not be doing justice to sustainability challenges or addressing it head on. Therefore, sustainability might also mean differently to different stakeholders. We need to therefore look at or understand the trade-offs, the value trade-offs, and the synergies that can come together when people come together to solve sustainability issues. So in the beginning of this project, we conducted a survey to understand the needs, the values, and the challenges that ICT-related companies are facing in adopting sustainability issues. A surprising 75% of the respondents answered that they've not even attempted to acquire any sustainable products or green ICT products. 15% of these respondents have tried, but have not gotten any sustainable product on the market, or probably could not find. Only 3% have been able to be successful on this. And their challenges ranges from lack of policy, lack of market accessibility, lack of green ICT expertise within the company, and lack of, they have so many challenges. So, yes, it works. Yes, so within that period that we had this project to help Finland attain its carbon neutral target, we came up with this blueprint to help policymakers and companies and researchers who would want to replicate this project that we did. So first, we did a situation awareness to scan and find out the needs and the values and challenges of companies, and then to make sense of these needs and challenges. And then we try to orchestrate stakeholders, bring them together to engage, to co-design what sustainability means to them and what sustainability ought to be. And then we come up, we developed a platform which helps these companies or stakeholders to come together to co-create. The lessons learned: sustainability challenges related to ICT have been viewed as complex and daunting, and usually companies only follow policies. And so their sustainability initiatives are usually reactive instead of proactive. This study also has reflected on the Finnish ICT ecosystem to help researchers and policymakers who would want to continue in the struggle of tackling sustainability issues. Few takeaways. Why must we use the ecosystem approach in solving sustainability issues? Because it provides coordinated structures that orchestrate complementary inputs. It also instigates and maintains collective action. And lastly, it has a generativity potential so that it preserves the future for, it preserves the world for the future people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you.
So, who has a question for that? Straight away in the middle front here.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'm Gabriel from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. So just a clarification question. Who did you exactly ask or interview? Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the methodology and how many participants did you have?
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. For the sake of time, so I skipped the methodology aspect. But our main target, as I mentioned in the presentation, the stakeholders in the ICT ecosystem involves digital or hardware companies, and then software companies, designers, policymakers, public procurers. I mean, those who buy ICT devices in large quantities, not individuals. And then we had researchers, research institutions, which LUT University, for example. So we first sent survey questions to about 300 companies within, certain parts of Finland, the southern part of Finland. And then we got respondents, of course, not from all of them. We got about 41 respondents. And then as you see in the blueprints that we had series of seminars and webinars to try to educate these stakeholders about what sustainability is from a research perspective, and then also know what they also think about sustainability. Yes.
Any other questions? No, in which case, let's move on into the panel session.
Thank you.
Come and join the stage. So what a fascinating set of presentations. Lots of BS, as in base stations, obviously. French and European, keeping local shops open and going for 2035. Oof. Let's start with that. How important do you think net zero targets are, and how much difference is it making to your experience in your job? Larry, you're the obvious answer first.
Yes, thank you very much for this important question. I think net zero target is really important, but achieving it's a bit complex and a tall order for most of the countries. I think for most countries, because they want to play safe, as you saw from the diagram, they set their targets to be 2090 or 2100. For the two countries that have achieved, when I checked, one of the reasons why they've been able to do that is because they have a very small population, less than 1 million, for example, and then they have a very large forest reserve. So about 75% of the land is covered by the forest. And so what they emit, their carbon footprint, the forest is able to absorb even more than what they are emitting. So, basically. But I mean, countries with large population and lots of activities, economic activities going on, it's a bit, I mean, challenging to yes.
So, Doug, how is this affecting Etno and the operators that you work with?
I was coming into, because I can't speak about countries in this case, I must speak about companies. And from my perspective within Telia, I can tell you that the zero target has been on our agenda since 2017 or 18, when our CEO really was very aggressive. And that's both in relation to that we want to be a good citizen, but also that our customers require it from us. So they are really driving us on all our markets. It's really started from Sweden, in Sweden. However, now it's coming all around, and the requirements coming from customers are increasing heavily. So I would say they are extremely important. However, it sounds good. 2030 is quite a couple of years ahead. Management might not always give it a proper focus, but that's another story to tell.
Yeah. So what about the Norwegian and the French contexts? Are you experiencing net zero goals? Are you feeling them?
I know that most Norwegian businesses are quite open about their goals. As for our case, I don't know what exact goals Mat Norge has set for themselves, but I know that the partnering businesses have goals, I think, for 2030.
Great.
Yep.
I have no clear answer on that. From my point of view, net zero is something I don't look at. I mean, as a researcher, I have to reduce my number of flights to conferences and maybe making less AI simulations. For mobile networks, I'm a bit afraid. I mean, as I said already, there are many more equipments. So we're observing, I mean, what I have shown is not from my calculations, it's just I observe more equipments, so more transceivers, and with an 18% increase. So maybe we are very efficient and we can sustain growth of data, but we have to reduce. So it's a bit contradictory. And even if we have 100% of renewable energy, should we use this energy for something else, maybe? I don't know.
The opportunity cost, a very good question, thank you. So to the room, I can see a hand straight up at the... Srinjoy.
Thank you, very interesting talk. My question is particularly about the energy consumption from Doug. Your data is probably the most comprehensive. There is probably nothing to complain about that. But what is your take-home message? Because it's not surprising. UK has already very green energy mix, very renewable. But is your take-home message that we should go beyond a carbon footprint and see the material footprint? Because of course you don't say anything. I was searching in your paper. Is there any talk of material footprint? None of the green energy sources are green. We know that very well, right? There's enormous material footprint in everything. So, and that has much more consequences. So what is your opinion about that?
Yeah, I mean, you are totally correct. This is not a material paper. For sure, we have not anything about embedded footprint. However, that was my cliffhanger. There is a 2020 paper coming, hopefully, when the peer reviewers have said their things about the content that are to come, and there will be data in that. But then we're talking about the whole ICT sector. But this is a challenge. I fully agree with you. Yes. Wow, the embodied part has just been published. I haven't seen that one. Okay, so that I missed in the mail. Great, then it's out.
Does it also say all is good?
No, I mean, what we are saying from an operational perspective, yes, and what we are trying to address is that, hey, we are not really exaggerating increasing our footprint. However, I fully agree with you that we need to lower the footprint to come down, and that is another challenge to address, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I would expect that.
Great, thank you. Okay, Vlad.
Thank you. Thanks. Just to get a feel for the spread between Francis and Dog's numbers, like at yours, I've seen 0.7% of electricity. Dog, could you also put your absolute numbers, make them relative to the electricity consumption of those places, roughly? Like,
I don't have these figures on top of my head at the moment, but I know that, yes, I mean, Telia's figures are in the paper, so I can talk about Telia. And we stand for, in Sweden, we consume 0.3% of our electricity production, or something like that. So if that gives you some numbers, but the variation among operators and their share of the consumption is huge within Europe, I can tell you. There are some operators that are really big in their countries, and some are really small. But I'm sorry to say, that's the only thing I can comment.
Okay, but you include fixed networks, right? So maybe it's a
fixed.
So maybe it's a 0.2. So it's a factor of 3.5. So it's not a huge. I mean, it is important, but it's not orders of magnitude. Okay.
No, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
thank you.
I want to attract your attention on the fact that the scope is not exactly the same. So is considering the fixed networks, the offices, and so on, and I'm considering only the base stations. So if you look at the slides is showing, you still have an increase on the mobile networks. And these mobile networks includes also the core networks and the base stations, of course, okay, and the transportation network. And so I'm considering only the base stations. So things should be looked at carefully, I think, to compare.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, this is Laurent from Inuria in France. I have also a question to Doug. You show on the last decade that the adding of a new technology like 4G networks does not increase the energy consumption in terms of electricity. I suspect it was only the 4G appearing here. So I have a question to you and to Marceau, maybe. You said in your paper, we can trust the data provided by operators because they are more and more aware about their energy consumption. Can we really trust this data coming from network operators?
I would suggest regarding trustworthiness that since many of these operators now, during the last 2 years, has started publishing them in their annual report, and these are externally audited, I would say that trustworthiness has increased heavily, as well as the awareness among the operators, because the knowledge and the data quality has not been that big, to be frank. But I would say, yes, you can rely on the data that are, and if there is an error, I would say it's a systematic error. That said, I mean, you are following the trends more, but the total figure might vary a couple of % up and down, depending on how you are measuring and so forth. But the figures, I would say, is quite pretty accurate. Regarding increase in consumption, what we see in the ICT sector is a shift from old legacy copper-based services, as you could see in one of my slides, and partly replaced by mobile services, 4G, 5G. But what we also see in some countries is that you are going away from 3G and hopefully also 2G. And there you have a quite huge electricity consumption embedded that we would want to get rid of, because 5G is, of course, more energy efficient from distributing energy per data, of course.
So Marceau, on the question of trust of network operators?
I don't know, but just to clarify, my own results are wrong, because it's only models, and I have made the rough assumptions, okay? But what I wanted to do when I have written this paper is to put pressure on them so that they can publish the papers, okay? Secondly, the 2G, 3G will be, there will be an extension of 2G, 3G in many countries, in particular in France. It's true that when you switch the traffic of 2G, 3G on 4G, 5G, there is a huge gain in terms of energy consumption because of the energy efficiency of 5G, 4G. But the frequency will be reused. And so if you give a big pipe to the customers, and you probably they will use it. So we can expect that giving a big pipe to the customers will also create a rebound effect, probably a direct rebound effect. It's an assumption.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, right back there.
Hi, Stephanie von Helmholtz Center Potsdam. A question to Larry. You talked about green ICT hardware. Which options do companies have in Finland and beyond for green ICT hardware?
Yes, thank you very much. At the moment, as we conducted the interview, many of the companies, even who are trying to source for sustainable products or green ICT, couldn't find where to get it. So there is no, I mean, the demand might be there, but the market is not there. So that's why we created this green ICT sustainability ecosystem to bring the suppliers and the buyers together so that, I mean, it's much easier so that they can, if they want a product, they know where to get it. And they can also involve in designing what kind of sustainability issues or services they require from the product. So it's more of to bring in all the stakeholders together to kind of negotiate and make some trade-offs if we could make that possible. Because sometimes customers or consumers want certain things, but from the producer perspective, it might be expensive or it's not doable. So, but when all of them are together to be able to discuss about it, then it's much easier to resolve. So at the moment, it's a bit difficult to tell that you could go to this point and you get a green ICT product or services. Yeah.
Any other comment? Doug, anything? Fine. Thank you very much.
That's a question.
I have another question for Larry. I'm Aina from Grenoble still. If I understood well, you thought that a company could not spontaneously change things and they need regulation. So maybe I misunderstood this, maybe I overinterpreted it.
Sorry, could you repeat your question again?
No, it was not a question, just I wanted to be sure that you told something like company could not spontaneously change things to reach net zero, or I don't know, or they need regulation, or they need something to push them.
Well, I mean, if my memory sets me right, what I said was that most of the companies were reacting to policies, I mean, that governments are imposing. Okay. So most of their sustainability initiatives are based on reactive initiatives. I mean, because they are forced to do it, but they are not proactive, partly because they don't have the expertise, or they don't have expertise, or maybe their strategies are not even tied to sustainability. So earlier on, I wanted to ask you, I mean, what Telia did, is it about the leadership? Because your leadership has this carbon neutrality in action, so probably that helped the companies to drive them forward. Yeah.
If I, yeah. Yes, we have a huge change. We have had, you know, there are changing CEOs and leadership in the companies. Maybe the same should be applied for politicians as well. I don't know. But looking at company level, we had a new CEOs 2015 named Johan Dennelind, who were really into sustainability. So 2017, we launched the Zero Daring to Goals, and that really set the target for the whole ICT industry for some reason, because we said zero CO2 and zero waste 2030. That was very precise communicated. And many companies has after that really copied us. In addition, we didn't only do that, we also signed up for this Science-Based Target Initiative, and by that we also sent a letter to all our suppliers, because our Scope 3 stands for like 75 or maybe 80% of our total footprint. We sent mail to them. We're talking about Microsoft, the Google, Facebook, we're talking about Amazon, all of them, saying, hey, we are on the journey to 2030, zero, you should be on us, or we will not purchase from you. It's simple as that. And I would say 78% or some 80% has really agreed and have signed up. So we are on the pathway. So that's the leadership is extremely important. But you also need to have the groundworking people that can count, so you have the proper figures and baseline, so you know where to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, this is also really interesting because Telia is a, multinational company, very big, and can control or can influence the supply chain. I mean, startups who wants to also probably take these bold steps, but if they are, the other stakeholders are really big and they cannot influence them, that it's sometimes a bit challenging. And probably you also have a, big budget dedicated for sustainability initiatives and issues.
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Yeah.
To comment on that, this is quite interesting. No, we don't. We have a couple of persons working with this, but sustainability issue and investments are line responsibility. It's in the line. It's not a separate budget for us. No way.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. It's important. One last question. Yep.
If I'm so, François, I'm from the University of Rennes. I've got a question still for Larry and possibly Marceau about net zero targets that are publicly set by companies, and some companies, not in the ICT sectors, they do that, but when you scratch under the surface, you realize there's a lot of offsetting. There's a lot of ripple effects, like e-fuels that will take away, lands that could be used for food and so on. So what are your thoughts on what can be done to prevent these kind of tricks that in the end kind of mask the reality of what's really happening?
Yeah, this is also a very interesting question. For me, it boils all down to the, looking at it or tackling the issue from ecosystem perspective. So, for example, as Telia was saying, they are looking from the connectivity perspective. So, but what happens, because in an ecosystem, stakeholders share the fate of each other. What the decisions that is being taken by one company or the actions of one company affects the other company. So if one company is providing sustainability, let's say software, for example, and the other company who is buying it is not using it sustainably, it doesn't still make any sense. That's why you kind of look at it or try to bring all of them together, that, okay, this is sustainability product, but this is how you use it. And so the usage, or those who are using, are also important. And those who are connecting all this, the hardware and the software, are also all important. So for me, looking at it or bringing these people together to look at it holistically makes it's more realistic and more scalable than when you are looking at it from one actor perspective.
So on that point of making sure businesses aren't hiding, it's worth looking at the Science Based Targets Initiative. There's many things you could criticize, but they do have a maximum percentage allowable for offsets and carbon removals. Any other comments? Right, in which case, I think that's the end. Please thank our wonderful panelists. And this is the very last of the paper sessions. Haven't we had a treat? All the wonderful papers over the past few days. Still some sessions to come. There's some art, there's a panel session, and of course the gala dinner this evening. So watch out for the cyclists. Thank you very much, everyone.